Dear speakers, dear delegates, dear friends, before we conclude our Congress, we have had a small surprise, namely Oleg Belozerov, chairman of the board of Russian Railways, asked me to make room to make a big award to Jean-Pierre Loubinoux, General Director, UIC, and Andreas Matthä, CEO of ÖBB AG. May I please ask Mr. Belozerov to join me here on the stage. May I please ask Andreas Matthä also to come to collect this award on the occasion of the 180th anniversary of Russian Railways for his unshaking support of the project to connect Austria to the great 1520 railways networks via Slovakia.
Пользуясь возможностью, хотел лично поблагодарить.
I would like to seize the opportunity, and I would like to thank Mr. Matthä for the cooperation, for the things that we have attained together. This award, 100 years of Russian Railways, well, from the beginning of Russian Railways until today, is very important to me. Today, railways are developing so actively, and therefore it's a great pleasure for me to hand this plaque over to you. And I hope that in 180 years from now, I think many things will have, even more things will have developed thanks to our cooperation.
The award to Jean-Pierre Loubinoux, Director General UIC, for his many years of unfailing service to the global railway industry is also a very personal gesture of thanks. May I please ask Jean-Pierre to come to collect the recommendative award of the 180th anniversary of Russian Railways.
Тоже, уважаемые коллеги, поскольку
Dear colleagues, this is really an important anniversary year, and therefore I would like to give this award to Mr. Loubinoux for his long-term cooperation with the Russian Railways. But of course, Mr. Loubinoux has done very much for us to make sure that Russian Railways will, both technologically and with respect to human resources, will be able to evolve so that we will even be more joined in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, spasiba very much. Receiving an award or a is always a very special moment. A moment of recognition of your work and your results in life. Also a moment of honor when you know that this type of recognition is granted to very few foreigners. But beyond the recognition of merits, I feel here the expression of values. And I know that these values, which I try to put into UIC, into our railway world community of unity, universality, and solidarity, we share them. But I will add two more, which is not really on the professional level, but on the personal level, which are mutual respect and friendship. So, Господин President, Dragadoj Oleg, Jarabik Vichim Drogum. Thank you.
Уважаемые дамы и господа,
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Russian railways, I would like to thank our Austrian friends for their great hospitality. I would like to thank all participants in this conference for their active contributions. It's the second time in a row that we're meeting in Vienna, the geographical center point, you might say, of railway lines in Europe. Working here at this crossing of routes needs knowledge and vision and experience in order to implement projects, joint projects of Eurasian transit. I may confidently say that we're all moving ahead in the same direction. It is absolutely necessary for us to embark further on the path of harmonization of our two transport systems. I would like to emphasize that our meeting has a symbolic character because, especially under conditions where trust is needed and tested. And once more, we have proved that the railway systems must be viewed outside the political context, the context of political systems, because it is subject to practical goals. The development of Eurasian trade and the increase to be expected in the near future, all this means that we, of course, compete amongst each other for customers. But we compete with other means of transport. We don't know what the future will bring, but one thing is sure. We offer a combination of extremely strong advantages, and other courageous projects will help us to win this race, to prevail in the competition. This concerns the high-speed corridor, the Eurasian high-speed corridor, and the transport corridor to the twin region, Vienna-Bratislava. All this will increase the attractiveness of our services and enable us to cope with the challenges of tomorrow. I would like to wish you a lot of success, perseverance, and I'm sure that we'll meet again very soon. Thank you very much, dear colleagues.
Herr Generaldirektor Matthä, darf auch ich.
Director General Matthä, would you like to say a few words as well? Dear Oleg, Mr. Belozerov, dear Mr. Loubinoux and Jean-Pierre, dear Mr. Jeneral, dear Hubert, ladies and gentlemen, it is a special honor and joy for me to speak at the end of this International Railway Congress, to address you just for a few minutes. First of all, I would like to thank Mr. Jeneral to this, for this successful and fertile conference, and I would also like to congratulate dear Oleg, you, Mr. Belozerov, for your extremely, extraordinarily, and surprisingly, and absolutely lovely gala evening at the Vienna Imperial Palace. Thank you very much for your invitation. I would like to also express my great joy at the high-level participation of representatives of both the industry and politics, which all goes to show that Austria and Russia are very close to each other. And this is particularly true for the railway sector. We, as ÖBB, are very proud and happy about our good and stable relationship with the Russian railways. between Russian Railways and Austrian Federal Railways, but it's not organizations that work together, it's people who work together. And therefore, I would like to thank you very much, dear Oleg, for being present at this conference. And thank you very much for your award, the award you have conferred not only on myself, but on us. I think we are the only two, Jean-Pierre and myself are the only non-Russians who've received this decoration. I consider this a great honor and a particular sign of mutual trust, respect, friendship, and cooperation. Now, this cooperation is, of course, necessary in the context of the new Silk Road, where cooperation of all partners is essential, and it is also a personal concern of mine to implement projects and ideas and to understand the opportunities inherent in these projects. Yesterday, I participated in a great celebration, the 300th anniversary of the free port of Trieste. Trieste, of course, was under the Austro-Hungarian monarchy for 300 years. You might call it the Austrian Sevastopol. And it has developed into an important hub of the maritime Silk Road. And this celebration, just as today's conference has shown to me that the rails are the link between societies and nations, because it is the very nature of railways to move people and goods and to create good connections. Efficient railway connections accelerate trade, the exchange of goods, and between people and cultures. At the end of the day, this leads to growth and prosperity of all of which, and we all can contribute, benefit from this. Trade streams between Europe and Asia play an important role in this. They stand to increase in the near future. Every forecast shows this very clearly. They're going to increase in both directions because a middle class is developing in China, and this is very interesting for our export economy. The new Silk Road has once more impelled even more growth. Still, of course, at the moment, trade balances between Europe, Russia, and China are not yet in equilibrium, but this is going to change, and I think the new Silk Road offers a great opportunity for enterprises, not only in Austria or Europe, but also in Russia. Ladies and gentlemen, the more efficient and stronger our contributions are in these development scenarios of the future, the greater our possibilities to succeed. This is why the Austrian Federal Railways believe in the new Silk Road. We believe in this initiative. We're part of it. Together with our partners, we also want to bring the wide gauge railway to the Twin City region, Vienna, Bratislava, in order to extend the Silk Road to Austria and to make Vienna and Bratislava a bridgehead between the big railway networks, both the Northern Silk Road and the Russian Wide Gauge Railway, and the links to the three trans-European networks. In this way, the railway systems of Russia, Europe, and Asia will be linked, and more goods will travel between our countries. I think this is the best basis for a good development of the economy and peaceful coexistence. And last but not least, for effective climate protection, because every ton of freight transported by rail is more climate friendly by 21 times than transport by lorry. Ladies and gentlemen, the Austrian Federal Railways are very successful. Rail Cargo Group is #2 in freight transport in Central Europe. We're represented in 18 countries and therefore a strong, reliable partner of the European industries in their exports to Russia and to the countries of Asia, especially China. Still, We are evolving our long-distance connections towards the Far East. We started 2 years ago to run our own independent trains, and last year more than 400 trains were dispatched in that direction. These railway links, of course, present technical challenges. Some of them have a historical background. They're due to different technical systems applied by various countries in the past. These railway enterprises, of course, this is an obstacle in international competition, especially in Central Europe. Ladies and gentlemen, the Austrian Federal Railways welcome an increasing cooperation in trans-border railway traffic. The International Railway Congress, I'm sure, is the best launching pad in order to intensify this international cooperation and also in order to improve the connections between Austria and Russia. We would be happy if the National Railway Conference took once more place in Vienna in the future. And we, as the Austrian Federal Railways, are willing to support you in the organization to enable a successful conference. Thank you very much. Spasiba.
Jean-Pierre Loubinoux, s'il vous plaît.
Well, here comes the end. Dear Hubert, dear Oleg, dear Andreas, dear colleagues and friends, I think it's an impossible mission to summarize such a rich Congress. Rich thanks to the quantity and quality of the attendance, of the panelists, of the presentations, of the discussions. Just a few words. UIC, as the representative of the whole railway community around the world, has a rather good vision on international trends. Indeed, transport is the mobility of goods and people, which is impacting economy, which is impacted by the stability of physical or political links around the world. And what we can see today is geographical fragmentation, political diversity and instability, economical disintegration, nationalistic focus. All of this should not really be in favor of rail, because rail needs interoperability. Rail needs high investments. Rail needs space and time stability for long-term projects and vision. What is happening is the opposite, exactly the opposite, because we need one vision, one world, one rail. And thank you again, Hubert, for inspiring us with this conference, and I was so happy to contribute with you to these 2 days. Rail, as we said, has survived a number of revolutions: technological, energy, information, and now digital. But why should we say rail is a survivor? Because of fundamental values: capacity, safety, sustainability, research and innovation, social impact on land planning, or on the growth of GDP wherever it develops. You know, around the world, the railway community, I should say family, is active. 7 million people every day working 24 hours at the service of the mobility of 7 billion people on Earth. So what we are observing today is 4 changes of paradigm. Some were already mentioned, but I will repeat them. The first one is we go from transport to mobility, and from mobility to accessibility, with rail as the backbone of this sustainable, integrated, connected international chain of mobility. We see a massive movement of urbanization. 2 billion people will be urbanized in the next 10 years. 45 cities will grow beyond 25 million inhabitants. CO2 emissions will increase by 300% in 10 years. Urban congestion is costing every year $200 billion. So we have very quickly to go from mitigation, which is just the reduction of CO2 emissions, to adaptation, which is building together resilient systems. The number 3 paradigm is we now have to be complementary in opposition to hyper-competition in the last part of the 20th century. We have to build together this optimized door-to-door chain of mobility. I'll give you one figure. You know that the logistical costs for our sector is 18% of the value of the product, where it should be in other sectors between 3 and 5. So there is room for progress and productivity there. Number 4 is, of course, this digital input on business with 3 key issues: productivity, predictability, and connectivity to improve services and security of the mobility. And the mobility, if you go by official statistics of OECD, will grow worldwide. Freight, all modes in the next 25 years will be multiplied by 4. With a shift from North Atlantic to North Pacific, with a growth in in Africa by 7, in South Asia by 4. The passenger traffic will also grow by more than 50%, which means that our business, the railway business, should grow every year until 2050 by an average of 4%. So there is a bright future for all of us ahead of us. We also have to face a boom on intra-urban mobility. And you know, there as well, there is a big room for improvements, because the deficit of investments on urban mobility is equivalent to 6% of the GDP worldwide. And what do we invest at the moment? 0.05%. And in developed countries, it's probably 1 or 2%. So there is here room for a big need and improvements. The high investments as well are planned. More than $11,000 billion will be invested. Okay, all modes, but on rail, 40% of it, which means that approximately $5,000 billion will be invested on rail before 2030. So the challenges are important to meet demand. All modes should work together and focus on 6 issues: social and economic issues, environmental goals, management of interfaces between intra and inter-urban mobility, renovation of infrastructure, construction of missing links to finalize the corridors, which we debated here, and the intelligent management of assets and capacity thanks to the digital impact. Now, a few words to conclude. As we must also remember that there is no such smart system without smart people. That also the human mind is stronger than any system, whether technical, economical, political, or ideological. We must remember that if I said 2 billion people will be urbanized in the next 20 years or even 15 years now, that there is also 2 billion people on Earth which have access to no means of transportation at all. That there is 2 billion people who live with less than $1 a day on this planet. That there will be 2 billion people more on this planet in a few years, and that 1 billion of them have no access to water or electricity. So we can hope together that this new industrial revolution will contribute to social and economical growth of globalized exchanges, thanks again to what we can offer together, a sustainable, integrated, connected international chain of mobility. And if you allow me 10 more seconds, I would like to conclude this very successful Congress, Hubert, with a quote from Victor Hugo, who said, and I will translate, "One day will come when there will be no other battlefield than markets opening up the routes of exchange and ideas opening up the gates of intelligence." Thank you again for your presence and participation. Thank you.
Thank you for the compliments. Finally, we would agree and to like to declare also the International Railway Congress 2019 a great success. In addition to our discussions, we note that over 9 international agreements were signed in the margins of our meeting. We hope that in addition, many business contacts have been made as we discussed opportunities better to connect ourselves globally across the great landmass that connect us all to Asia and beyond. No one can be left in any doubt that by better connecting some of the world's largest economies and economic blocks across long distance by rail, everyone involved will benefit and genuine economic growth be safeguarded for generations to come. The Congress provided many positive impulses for the future of long-distance rail and a great platform to discuss better cross-border system integration. We would like to thank WKO in particular for this great venue and the Republic of Austria of the Ministry of Transport, Infrastructure and Technology for hosting and for supporting us. In this room, we could feel the convergence towards a global rail system as we discussed interoperability as well as the implications of a global railway supply market. It's clear that just like airlines and shipping, no railway entity or single project should see itself as purely a national enterprise, but instead as part of a global fabric. There are enormous economic benefits to be gained if we work together. It is in that spirit that it is my great pleasure as President of this Congress to let you know that there will be a further one to be held here in Vienna. And please note, it should be in March 2020. Again, we look forward to welcome each and every one of you to the largest global business gathering of its kind. We would like to thank the very senior delegations of Korea, Arabia, Eurasia, and the Far East, including Russia and China, and 30 other countries, and who gave us their confidence by coming this year. We deeply thank our sponsors, ÖBB and Russian Railways, for joining us on this journey. Without them, nothing could have happened. But my biggest thanks goes to the many teams who behind the scenes who fulfilled many big and small roles in contributing to our overall success over these days. Especially my thanks to the team of Gudok and of the communication of Russian Railways, who also organized the wonderful Gala Abend last night. The objective of this and of future international railway congresses is not only to promote international rail transport and interoperability at a global level, but also to address current and predict future challenges for global rail transportation and its integration. Together, we have taken wonderful steps together towards the golden future for long-distance rail. We have explored transit potential beyond all expectations and done all this in this small transit country, which has long been a center of long-distance trading routes and which now will return once more to be a bridge and a gateway to Asia. Thank you all for coming and thank you for your support. I now declare the Congress closed until we meet again at the latest in March 2020 to pick up on these important themes. Thank you very much.